Hey friends, this is Mark Suroviec, host of the Workplace Solutions podcast, inviting you to discover the joy of work. All right, Rhonda, how you feeling?
Feeling great. How about you?
I'm good. You ready to jump right in?
You ready to jump in and build a team?
You ready to jump in? Let's build a team. Let's do this. All right, so who or what are we talking about today, Rhonda?
We're talking about why build my team. The question of why.
Why build my team? Anything else we're going to cover in this episode?
How do I build my team? And so if I need the why, do I need to know how to do it? And what are the key components of a catalytic event?
Fantastic. All right, Rhonda, we'll keep this icebreaker question brief because I know you got to roll soon. True or false?
Ooh. I don't like the look in your eyes right now.
No, that was the question.
Oh, true or false? I have to roll right now?
No. Just true or false. There's no follow-up.
Oh, I'm going with true.
Love it.
I was really waiting for a question to follow that.
I know. I didn't think of one. I'm sorry.
That was quick.
I was not ready. All right. I don't have any recap or corrections, I don't think. Let's jump into this. Rhonda, what is the main question today?
Why build my team?
As management guru Peter Drucker put it, only 3 things happen naturally in organizations: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. A lot of our listeners have heard that quote before, and so that's not something that is necessarily new, but it still remains true. So let's look at a few of the reasons why you might want to build your team, but we're going to spend more time on the how in this episode. Some thoughts on why you might build your team. So maybe you are having a team or a group of people under your care for the first time, or you've onboarded a new person onto your team, or you've offboarded or gone-boarded, as I like to call it.
Gone-boarded.
What happened to them? Oh, they got gone-boarded.
Win day becomes lose day.
But there's a different number of people on your team. A legitimate reason is you have a budget to do so. So people that know that there's value in this have decided there's a budget for it, and why not spend the money? Things don't usually, I shouldn't say things don't usually end up in a budget unless there's been thought. That's who knows. But let's assume that the people who oversee your budget have wisdom and they've put budget money in there, or you have put budget money in there as a placeholder. Maybe your team needs a break, or they need a win, or something good happened and you want to celebrate it. Or maybe it's as simple as it's important, or it's something you should do. You don't know why you should. That's enough of a reason. You don't have to know the why. You want to know the outcomes, but you don't have to know the why.
That's a good point. Yeah. The why is, what do I need to accomplish in this time frame? Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah. So if that's the case, then how do you build your team?
We're going to focus on 2 main areas, and this is far from the only 2, but in this episode, we'll focus on catalytic events, and in the next episode, we'll focus on mission, vision, values, norms, and understanding.
Oh, that's big. So in that case, what is a catalytic? I can say that. What is a catalytic? No, I can't say that. What is a catalytic event?
Love it. Yes. You got it, Rhonda. So a catalytic event is a purposeful event that represents the launching point of a desired change or outcome. You might see terms like team retreat or staff retreat or company offsite or internal conference or trade conference. It's something that offers a disproportionate amount of time and investment on a specific thing for a specific reason. Sometimes it's that mountaintop experience. Sometimes it's that retreat of getting away from the norm. But it's something that has been intentionally planned with key components that are true of almost every good catalytic event, and it's not intended to be the norm. It's not what you do all the time, but it's special, and there's time between the catalytic. I really need a different word, but it comes from the term catalyst, as in something that changes or inspires change or causes chemical change or a chain reaction. And I'll have to fact check all of that with my wife. But this idea of it's not all the time. These are special times that happen every so often, depending on the type of event, and they're not the norm.
Right. And in those moments or times, we kind of expect, we're creating these with a loose expectation that there will be change or somebody will have a change or an eye-opening experience. Perfect. So if that's the case, what are the key components of a catalytic event?
I've listed 10, and every one of them could be another podcast episode.
Which you'll hear somewhere down the road.
We'll hear somewhere down the road. But we'll go through these 10 rather quickly and then give some examples of catalytic events that we've experienced and how many of these factors occurred in those events. So number 1, clearly articulated outcomes. And so what we mean there is not just outcomes. Yes, you need to determine, why are we doing this event? What are we trying to accomplish? If you want change, what change is it you're trying to get? If we're trying to think of a preferred future, what is the preferred future we are trying to accomplish? But the key word in here that's probably unique is articulated. It needs to not just be decided, these are the outcomes, but those outcomes need to be communicated to the people attending before, during, and after. So clearly articulated outcomes. Number 2, human connection. One thing we believe at Workplace Solutions is that we were created for work, and part of that is having dignity and respect and connection with other human beings who have hopes and dreams and desires and plans and life. A catalytic event has a human component. It has a connection component where I am in relationship with other people.
Nice.
The exception would be like a solo retreat where you go off and do some soul searching by yourself. So that could be a catalytic event, but we're going to focus on those ones for multiple people in this conversation.
Okay, good.
All right, number 3 is memorable activities. So sometimes, and we talked about this in a recent podcast about conferences, the things that you learn, the content, aren't necessarily the things that you remember. So you remember more what you do, even if it had nothing to do with the actual content. You remember what you do. So the more that you can connect the activities with the purpose and the outcomes of the retreat, the better off you are. Okay?
Nice.
Number 4, having opportunity for reflection, discussion, and action. All right, so the opportunity to think about, to process, to reflect, to engage with whatever the material is, whatever the conversation is, to have that internally and process that internally, to process that externally with other people and listen and hear their perspective, and the opportunity to put some of those things into action. I think of a program that I'm familiar with where they would encourage folks to write encouraging notes to people, because good leaders, are encouraging and seek to, speak life into others. Love that. And in that session, they didn't stop to write a note to people. And they're like, hey, you should write a note. Why not now? Why not take this time and say, you should write a note? No, like right now. Yeah. Like pick a real person,
like this minute.
And write here's some cardstock on the table. We're literally not doing anything. Put your phone down. Yes. We're not doing anything else until you've written a note. that feels like a lot of pressure, but that's powerful, and much more powerful than here's the list of things you should do when you come back from something, because those are some of the hardest. Taking those action steps at the end are really difficult sometimes if you don't practice the components of this action along the way.
Agreed.
Okay. Multisensory interaction. So smells, touch, taste. So both Rhonda and I are always a fan of good food, yes, and good smells, yes, and having snacks and having food and making sure that those physical needs are taken care of. Food and snack and those kind of things are often emotional needs, and it doesn't have to be in an unhealthy way. It's, just holding this warm cup of coffee is soothing. It reminds me of the memories associated with this. And, memory research says that smell is very closely tied with memory. So multisensory interaction. So engaging all of our senses. We mentioned this a lot in our last podcast, but having a real schedule that is doable and is not a fire hose of, 20 minutes in, you realize you're 3 hours behind. When you give a group of people that you're working with a time period, it needs to be a real time period so that they can actually meet those expectations. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're behind in your schedule and you say, all right, everyone take 2 minutes, use the restroom, go get some coffee, send an email. Like, no. I can't do any of those things in 2 minutes. I was working with a group recently, and the leader had said, hey, we've got a snack break, go use the restroom, be back in the room in 5 minutes. And there was over 100 participants.
Yeah.
And there was only 2 stalls in the restroom, and there was lines out of both doors.
Somebody did not get their logistics down.
And they're like, well, time's flexible. Yes, time is flexible. We can adjust the schedule as we need to. But wouldn't it be better if we just planned on human beings take this long to go get a snack and use the restroom in this environment? And some of that just is from knowing how the logistics work and understanding human behavior, and comes from experience, or knowing people like Workplace Solutions that understand how long things actually take.
Exactly. And that honors your participants.
Mm-hmm. And that schedule is varied in what you're doing. So there's structured time, there's semi-structured time. A campfire is a good example of semi-structured time where, hey, we're together, we're hanging out, we're having human connection. There's not really an agenda at the campfire. I mean, there could be, but we're just making s'mores and sharing life together and community. And unstructured time where your brain needs to catch up. It only holds so much. And you find, especially in multi-day retreats or multi-day events, that if you've had your schedule go deep into the evening, the next morning they're shot. Yes. And it's like, well, we got a full day plan. It's like, well,
my brain's gone.
My brain's gone. Number 7, a novel environment. We mentioned this also in an earlier podcast, but this idea of the best events, the best retreats, the best catalytic experiences don't happen at your workstation. They happen in other places where you're having to be in a new environment. You're having new sensations. You are being asked to do things that you don't normally do. And you're maybe eating food that you don't normally eat. Maybe you're around people in a different way than you are in your 9 to 5. But there is a novelness to the environment that allows you to slow down and look at things differently.
I like that. I like that.
Number 9, evaluation method. If you're going to have an event, you better know how to figure out if you were successful. Which comes to that outcomes piece, but that is more than just having a survey. And as someone who used to design a whole lot of surveys. Survey design is hard, and having good evaluation methods is hard. If you want to go the next level of survey design, one of my colleagues, Dr. Matt Champagne, is a fantastic survey consultant. He can help you jump to the next level in that. But I would say that evaluation is way more than just, hey, we took the survey. There's 100 different things about how do you evaluate success and did we achieve the outcomes? And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a clearly defined method and or metric that says, yes, we were successful, or no, we're not, or somewhere in between, or we were successful on these things, we weren't on that. And lastly, we're work-play, so fun.
Yes.
Because that's a whole lot of work to plan all those things, so it helps to have fun when you're learning. It helps to have fun when you have human connection, and activities can be fun and discussion can be fun, and it doesn't have to be entertainment every moment. You can have absolute serious conversations, but at the end of the day, there needs to be fun.
I agree. Totally. Great list.
So Rhonda, what was one of your favorite Catalytic events you've ever been on?
I used to be a mentor for a group called Woman to Woman.
Okay.
And we mentored young pregnant teens. We would go into the school, identify the need, and then they would join us. And we had a meeting like every other Saturday. But our Catalytic event was we took these young women with their babies to a camp. And that was my real first experience with rope climbing and being in the sky and all that. And for the girls, it was something that they never, I mean, I had heard about it. They never even experienced. So we had babysitters, they took the babies, and we did these growth things. But in the meantime, like, we built up to that activity. We had activities in the classroom. I remember one of them was, are you an eagle or a chicken? And so we were giving them tools to use for their work belt, if you will. How do I go back to school? How do I raise this baby? How do I keep from getting pregnant again? Really was a lot of it. So this company was out in New York, and they had an amazing agenda set for these girls. So by the time we left, one of the things that we were looking for, well, where's the attitude? Because sometimes coming into these things, there's not always a good attitude. And where did that change take place? What can you take with you? How is this going to affect the rest of your life? How are you going to get through your classes? Because we expected them to be in school too. If you need a job, how do we help find you a job? So there were just so many pieces of this. And our follow-up really came every weekend. Are you still coming back? Because it was voluntary. Nobody told them they had to be there. Are you coming back? What are you doing? How are you succeeding? Where are your kids at? You know, that kind of thing. So I would say that it was my most favorite because there was so much human contact and there was so much one-on-one contact. As a matter of fact, my little mentee, she is, I don't know how old she is now, but she just sent me a message. And this is going to sound really funny. Her kids are grown. She had one at the time. She now has 3, and she's having a baby. And I said, did you just, Trevina, did you just decide that you didn't want to have a house with teenagers anymore? She was like, I decided I wanted another baby. And it was a decision that she made at an older age. So there was thought that went into it. So yeah, Trevina's doing great. And that was an experience that I will never forget.
Yeah, so this episode isn't over. We'll record the second half the next time we record, if that's okay with you, because it's 4 o'clock.
That does work.
As the management Peter Drucker guru.